Hey guys, if you're shopping for knives and gear, make sure you check out the description of the video you're watching right now for links to some great online retailers. There's also individual links for knives that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got a really interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Reate Future. A very, very interesting, very unique design. This knife is discontinued. As far as I know, you cannot get this knife anymore, and even when you could, it was very expensive. Why are you showing the knife if we can't buy it? Because I just review knives that I think are interesting. I'll point out whether or not they're available right off the bat. That way, if you guys don't want to watch the video, you feel like it's a waste of time, you don't have to. I've got lots of videos of knives that are available right now. And you can check those out if you want to. But I've always been interested in the Reate Future ever since I saw it for the first time. And thanks to @sometimespointy on Instagram, I was able to do that. So thank you very much for that. Please be sure to give him a follow. It's because of people like him that I'm able to bring you guys daily knife content. It's also because of my generous patrons. If you'd like to get your hands on one of these cool stickers and some other benefits, there's of course a link down in the description. Your support would mean the world to me. And make sure to follow me on Instagram @metal_complex. Okay, let's go ahead and get a measurement on this guy. This is not a small knife. Overall length of the Reate Future, however you like to say that, coming in at about 8 3/4 inches. Blade length, if you measure it from here at the tip, you're looking at 3.75. If you measure it from way back here, that's a 4-inch blade, right? In a lot of places, it's going to be illegal, right? Check your local laws if you're falling within a certain area there. 3.5 inches on the cutting edge, the part of the blade that actually matters. So there you go. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1. The Rat 1 is coming in at 8.6 inches overall, a little smaller. How about up against the Spyderco PM2? Spyderco PM2 is coming in at 8.3 inches overall. How about up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue? Ritter Hogue is coming in at 8 inches overall. And last but not least, the smallest knife that I usually carry, the Spyderco Para 3. Spyderco Para 3 coming in at 7 1/4. Did I call the PM2 and not the Para 3? Sometimes I mix those up. Sorry about that. How's the action on this guy? It's a Reate. Anybody who doesn't know, Reate is manufactures their knives out of China, but that is substantially different than what you would find at a gas station or even some of the really high quality Chinese-made knives nowadays. In fact, a lot of people will tell you that Reate's production quality is vastly superior to what we see even in the American production knife world. And I'm gonna say, yeah, that's the case. I for the most part, will spend my money on American-made knives. But if Reate comes out with something truly incredible, I am more than happy to spend a lot of money on a really well-made Reate knife. In fact, I just recently did spend over $500 on a Reate, and it's because their quality is excellent. They're able to bring elements to the table that would, if manufactured in the United States, would cost us much more money. Now, people have different feelings on that. You can think whatever you want. I will review knives on this channel regardless of their geographic location, and my buying habits are my own, and they will continue to be that way. The action on this guy is superb, and it is, I think past a certain point, it is absolutely falls shut. But it's nice and controlled, which is what I always say is something that I prefer. I appreciate a finger guillotine, like a knife that just falls shut, like gravity is almost pulling it harder. I appreciate that for what it is, but in practice, I find that I really prefer that my blades are more controlled, because then they don't slice my fingers off, which is not a part of the normal transition between from the pocket, deployed, make the cut, put it back in your pocket. There's not really room for, me losing my fingers in there. It's not optimal. Okay, haha, funny. The action is great. And the flipper tab is interesting. It's very unobtrusive, and it's one of those where you sort of push down. I kind of like that. I'm coming around to the idea of flipper tabs that are shaped like this because it makes flippers a little bit easier to carry. You don't have this big hook thing sticking out of your pocket. Hinder knives. But it really makes a lot of sense to me. I like this, and it's easy to do. It's comfortable, and the D10 is great. Snap is great. I mean, I got no problem with this. Every now and then, because of, you guys just saw me do it, that you're going to slip off of it. It hurts. Make sure that, during the adaptation process, find the way you like to do it. I found that the way that it keeps me from doing that is I take my finger like this and do more like that. More of a light switch. than a push button. That helps a little bit. But yeah, action's great. Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check on this guy. I'll get out my tools here. You can pick up my tools and my flashlight down in the description. They are very recommendable, and they are not expensive. The pivot's going to be a T8. And that's going to be pretty much it on this knife. I'll show you guys here in a sec. Yeah, T8 pivot. The pivot assembly is really the only part you need to take out if you want to disassemble a knife, because this is an integral, meaning all one piece of titanium rather than a pillar or sandwich construction on a regular frame lock or liner lock or whatever. Actually, most knives are pillar construction. Most modern Foley knives anyway. So yeah, so what's the benefit there? It looks cool and there's minimal hardware. It's also substantially more difficult to machine, and it's more risky because if they mess up the cut, when they're milling this all out, they just lose that whole brick of titanium, right? I mean, it's useless at that point. So these cost a lot more money. There's a lot more that goes into, whether or not you value that. There's people looking at what utilitarian benefit is there to an integral? Almost none. It's just something that people who are buying knives in this price range will appreciate. It absolutely is going to cost more whether people like it or not. The best thing you can do if you don't like that is don't buy it. Buy something else. But yeah, I mean, I like integrals. I think they look great. I love how the back of this looks, and it's something that's automatically adds a level of intrigue to the knife. Anytime I look at a design, if I'm kind of, meh, or, wow, that's kind of neat. But it's an integral. I'm like, oh, let me see. I want it. Yeah, let me take a look at that. That's cool. I don't know why. I think it's neat, But yeah, as far as like parts you can disassemble, the pivot, you can take the blade out. You can take apparently you can take this overlay off, those two screws right there. I don't know why you would, but you could take the steel lock bar insert out, and then the pocket clip. And if you're wondering, all of those screws are T6, which sucks, but okay, whatever. It's an integral. I don't need to take those pieces off. If this was mine, the only thing I would ever take out of there is the pivot assembly so I could remove the blade, clean it, and put it back in, right? So I don't really care about any of that. So that's kind of neat. I like that. Very much appreciated. Okay, carry profile. Let's go ahead and do thickness up against the Spyderco Para 3. Para 3, you can see there's not quite as thick. This is definitely a thicker knife. Let's do carry profile up against two knives that everybody loves, and they're a bit awkward themselves. The PM2 and Para 3. So length overall, you can see this thing is definitely longer than both the PM2 and Para 3, but because of its height, it's nowhere near as tall, or because of the flipper tab, I guess, being unobtrusive and the overall profile of the body, it's nowhere near as tall. So dimensionally, the issue with some people is that it's very large and it's a little bit thicker than these knives. It's also going to be heavier. Let me go ahead and give you guys a measurement of blade stock thickness here real quick. Blade stock thickness on the Reate Future is 155. Almost 157,000. So between 155 and 160 thousandths on this guy. And then on the inside here, I'm sure you guys can see, there is no milling. That is solid titanium on both sides. So the end result usually with integral titanium frame locks is that, okay, there we go. They're a bit heavy. And this is a big knife. It's not that bad. What was that sound that I made? Some sort of Amazonian bird. Yeah, it's not that heavy. That was a sound of surprise, right? A pleasant surprise. 5.4 ounces. I expected this to be 6 1/4. It's not terrible. If you like big knives, it's not going to be a problem for you. If you wear, lighter pant material, athletic shorts, you wear really tight pants, yeah, this is definitely going to be a problem for you. Especially if you're used to carrying the Para 3 or lightweight or the mini bug out or something like that. Yeah, this isn't going to be your cup of tea. For people who like to carry larger knives and you wear regular jeans or work pants on a day-to-day basis, you're not going to have a problem with this at all. It's big, it's a little bit thick, but weight really isn't that bad, especially considering how much titanium there is. That's a lot of titanium, right? Pretty impressed with that. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the anatomy here. We got a lot going on. Reate always does well on the presentation aspect, and it's no secret that this is a very unique looking design. The reason they call it the Future is because I'm gonna guess, I don't work for them, is because the entire knife looks very futuristic. Everything is very smooth and has this sort of, I mean, it kind of looks like something that you'd see in a science fiction movie here in 2020, even though this knife, I think, or the design is at least a couple of years old, maybe even 3 years old. I'm not really sure. But yeah, it looks super, super futuristic. This is going to appeal to some people and not to others, but there's not, the thing that I like is that there's symmetry going on here. I mean, if you were to gray all of this out and you couldn't see any of the detail, we would have essentially the same, I mean, very, very similar shape on both sides, just reversed and flipped. I appreciate that. That's cool. What we have on the scale here is a very, very light tumbling going on. And then if you can see, can we see, I wonder if, can I see it in my light? No, it's very, there's I think a little teeny tiny bit of micro texturing, and that might just be my eyes getting tricked. But in any case, the titanium frame looks really, really good. It is a bit, I don't want to say it's pokey back here, but it is a little bit sharp on some of these edges right here at the corner. Fortunately, you're not going to be interacting with that much. Corner of the flipper tab is a little teeny tiny bit sharp. Jimping's not that bad, right? Some of these corners are pokey, not really sharp. Inside here, it's all nice. No big deal. I'm sure you guys are noticing, like, oh, fit and finish issue, that marble carbon fiber inlay is raised above the titanium. That's actually done on purpose. It's exactly the same on both sides. That is, and on one hand, it's a testament to their absolute quality control. They can get that right and make it look even all the way around. On the other hand, I just wish it was flush. I don't like that it's raised. Does it cause an issue? No. It's just like a visual, like, I want it to be flush. You know, it's one of those things. So yeah, it's not really a flaw. It's just it's just a little thing that bothers me. Another thing that bothers me is they didn't need any screws on this side. So why did they need screws on this side? I don't like how this looks. I mean, it really takes away from it, especially with all the other busyness. They've kept all the, you got the lock bar on this side, you got the pocket clip on this side, you got the steel stamp, and you got the designer logo right there, which actually I'm going to zoom up on here real quick. Tashi Barucha. I'm so sorry. I know that I butchered that, and I'm so sorry. I mean, this is an amazing aesthetic design, and the designer absolutely deserves credit there, and I've surely butchered his name, so I'm so sorry about that. But anyways, yeah, I don't know why they need screws on this side, but okay. I mean, I didn't make it, so I don't know. The blade is awesome. This is a hand rub satin finish. As far as satin finishes go, I always say that I'm getting tired of them, but the hand rub satin finishes look a little bit better, and I just like the idea that it was done by hand, which it is definitely through Reate. I like the horizontal lines a little more than the vertical lines that I see on a standard satin finish. The other nice thing is because Reate pays attention to stuff like this, we do not have sharp edges up here. In fact, the spine is crowned, which is, again, not something that adds in terms of anything in terms of utility, but it is a nice touch to a knife that costs a lot of money. The fuller right here, also non-functional, but very beautiful and very well done, nicely polished on the inside, and no sharp edges or anything like that. The flat here carries out about 80% the length of the blade, and there's a decent amount of room to drop towards the cutting edge, but like a lot of Reates, it's fairly thick behind the edge. Does that mean that it's not going to cut? No, it is definitely sharp. This is M390 steel, which is going to be great for edge retention and corrosion resistance. Are you going to be able to shave toilet paper? All that toilet paper that you shave every single day with your Opinel, is this going to do the same thing? No, but that's weird. Why are you doing that, right? I understand sometimes it's nice to be able to, cut a chunk out of an apple a little bit more conveniently, right? But for regular EDC, little tasks like getting the knife out of your pocket, making a quick cut, the geometry of this blade might slow you down a quarter of a second to a whole second versus a knife with better cutting geometry. So very specific things that you run into periodically, but not commonly, are going to be made a little bit more difficult by a blade like this that is large and kind of chunky in the geometry. But I mean, for me, if I'm being honest with myself, what I use a knife for, this or my Para 3 or whatever other knife that has better geometry, I don't really notice it. A lot of times I'm carrying a knife for all of the other little features that stand out to me and are, beautiful and interesting and just make me feel good about the item, purchasing it and carrying it, right? But if you're a performance person, you really like optimized performance no matter how little you use a knife, then yeah, the geometry is probably not going to be your favorite thing in the world. There is no hint of a sharpening choil in this guy, which is going to make that look less pleasing over time. But the way that it is initially looks pretty good. This area right here, normally this is the part of the review where I say this area right here was a missed opportunity for a forward choil. If they added a forward choil there, it would take away from the whole look. I mean, that was on purpose. The nice thing is you actually can choke up here. There's no real spot for your index finger, but it's fairly comfortable. It's okay. It's kind of like the area on the rat, right? This definitely should have been a forward choil, but you can do it, right? Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Not the most comfortable thing in the world, but I don't mind it. Ergonomically, it's super comfortable. This looks like a knife where they put everything into the aesthetics and nothing into the ergonomic design. No. Actually, it's pretty comfortable. Even the pocket clip is not, it's a little pokey right here, but even the pocket clip's really not bugging me. I feel pretty good about this. The titanium surface is pretty slick, but I honestly feel pretty locked in. That slight curvature at the tail really makes me feel like, yeah, I've got a hold of this thing, right? You're not super close to the cutting edge in this position. In fact, nowhere close. But if you choke up on it, you can get right up behind it. Just be careful because there's no area here that's going to indicate like, hey, you're getting close to the cutting edge. No, you have to pay attention to that. So if you're going to use this knife, if you're going to seek this out on the secondary market and you're going to wear gloves and you're going to work hard with this knife, oh my goodness, you're going to have to pay attention, right? Transitioning from here to here, you could miss that. It'll easily slice through a glove. All right, let's take a look at, let's take a look at this cool anodizing on the back. These arrows right here. Looks like they're indicating something, right? Like there's something there. There's nothing there. It's just arrows. They look nice. They get gradually larger, right? Down to this point, and then these three are about the same size. And the chevrons, whatever you want to call them. Very beautiful. They're separated by that slight change, and the transition to the back end of the knife. This area back here, it's my favorite part of every integral is how that looks to have the titanium all together instead of two different pieces. And this looks nice. This was an interesting way to do that. They added some color to an otherwise, very simple gray, black, and silvery blade. So that's cool. The pocket clip has been set into the titanium. There's a couple of screws there holding it in. The nice thing about the pocket clip is it 100% goes with the design. It's a very futuristic titanium milled pocket clip, and I appreciate that. It's not my favorite pocket clip in the world for function and where it carries. There's quite a bit sticking up out of your pants, but it'll do the job. This area right here, if you do have to peel it up a little bit to get it over the seam of your pants because there's not a lot of room to force that under there, it's pretty sharp, and there's a lot of retention, so that might bug you a little bit. I'm wearing jeans today, getting this knife in and out of my pocket. With two hands is no problem, like kind of where I hold up the pocket clip with my left hand and put it in, but getting it in there with one hand is a little bit of a nuisance. So just to, bring that to your attention. The marble carbon fiber looks great, and the way they laid it in there looks awesome. I hate that there's two other screws here. That just looks, I just don't like how that looks, but I mean, functionally, what can I say? I don't know why that is. There's obviously a reason for it. I mean, is it because, there's more of a reason to take this? Probably because there's something that you might need to take apart or get, have access to, that would require you taking this piece off. That's probably why that is. And I guess I understand that. But I don't like how it looks. I like the hardware everywhere else. It's fine. Nice big steel lock bar insert that doubles as an over travel stop, so that's great. The knife locks up. Let me give you an organic lock up here after a flip. Knife locks up at 35%, maybe 40%, which is fine. And like all Reates that I've ever handled, the centering is absolutely perfect. Let's take a look at the... Ooh, are they internal? Yeah, okay, so internal stops. That's great. Always like those. And then there's no blade play. Up, down, left, or right. I mean, that's to be expected. This was an expensive knife, guys. This was a $500 knife when it was brand new. Should you seek this knife out and pay $500 for it on the secondary market? There's a lot of competition, even with integrals right now. Picking this knife up, playing with it, handling other Reate knives. I don't know. If it were me, I wouldn't spend more than $400 on a knife like this in the secondary market, perhaps less. If somebody, like right now, if somebody was like, hey, I got a Reate Future and I'll sell it to you for $300, I'd consider it. You know, if I was seeking one out, the most that I feel like I might pay is about $400. Do I think it was worth $500 when it was brand new? Well, when it was brand new, it was a different time in the knife world as far as I remember, so maybe so. The fact remains that this is a good knife. It is a well-designed knife. There's a couple of little things that bother me. I mean, I don't want to say that the fact that it is huge bothers me, but it is huge, and that's something you need to pay attention to. This definitely was an aesthetic design first and a functional design second. The edge geometry on most Reates that I've handled could definitely be better. Coming from somebody who doesn't care that much about perfect edge geometry, I'll admit this is a bit thick for the style of blade that it is. It would have been way more useful if it wasn't. I don't like the screws on the insert here. That looks weird. There's a couple of little tiny sharp spots here and there. I definitely don't like that the inlays are raised. But man, the rest of it's super beautiful. You know, this is a piece where I would not be purchasing it at all for function. I would appreciate that they use premium materials. I would appreciate the fact that it actually was built to be used, right? But I would be buying it for how it looks and because it's an integral. If that's your thing, maybe this is worth seeking out on the secondary market. For everybody else, you know, who's looking for utility and or a knife that's less money and doesn't care about the integral thing, right, then maybe this is something you can pass on. In any case, it's not something I can really put in my recommended knives playlist because as far as I know, it's just not available anymore. This was cool, and I liked it about as much as I thought that I would. I mean, I kind of thought, I bet I'd like that knife. And here at the end of the review, yeah, it's pretty cool. I think it's neat, right? There's a lot of knives that I would choose for $500 over this one, though. Let me make that very clear. This is cool. It's well made. It might have been worth $500 at some point. As of right now, there's a lot of knives I'd pay $500 for over something like this. In fact, I did a video on that recently. My top 10 favorites under $500 that you can buy right now. So you can check that out if you want to. Anyways, guys, that's going to be pretty much it for today's review. Make sure to follow me on Instagram. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that middle complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.